Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline's Silver Sunday. This Sunday on March the 17th, 2024. And I just realized today it was St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. I am your host, Iron Roller Man, and I am joined by the regular crew here. To my immediate that direction is Mr. Mike W. Belcher, that man in the mask. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, everybody.
Mike will be directing us mostly tonight, so we'll have some fun.
Awesome.
Next to him, Mr. Not an Artist, Tom Mason.
Hi, everyone.
Not an artist, you're a cartoonist, right?
Well, that's right. Yes, but cartoonist is like the lazy version of an artist because I don't know how to draw anything. And I'm too lazy to learn structured anatomy and any of that stuff. So I just
you just make it all up, right?
Make it up.
doodle it. And then if somebody complains about it, it's like it's a cartoon.
It's art. It's art.
It's
Art.
not supposed to look real.
Don't art shame me. Don't gatekeep me.
Oh, yeah.
And also joining us, Mr. Thomas Flormonti Jr., the master of nothing.
Master of nothing. That's correct. How's it going, everybody?
Good to see you. You're gonna have to give us a demonstration sometime of those cool colored wheels you got going on. Those are cool.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Not right now, but sometime because those are very cool.
Okay.
And last but not least, Miss Roberta Conroy, Silverline Team of Colors, in her blurry background there. Hey, Roberta. Oh no, you're muted again.
Oh no. Oh, she's all bad.
She's talking again. We can't hear her.
Look at her.
Oh no.
I think when I'm reading her lips, she said, "What the?
I don't
What else did she say?" Oh, we can't say that on this show.
She's saying stuff, but we can't hear her.
So she can cuss all she wants. Go for it.
Like, let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try that.
I blame Roland.
She's like, can you hear me now? It's like the Verizon commercial, right? Except that we can't hear her. Can you hear me now? She can hear us though because she's laughing.
I think she's laughing at us though. It's the digital leprechauns have it.
Oh wait, did you barely hear her?
No.
Mm-hmm. Oh, got her some? Huh?
Yeah, but she sounds like she's like on the planet Mars.
Scream real loud, Roberta.
Oh, there we go. Now it's like we're in the bunker on Lost, and we're just getting a message.
So some sound is coming through.
Oh, I heard her say something.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're on volume 1.
Yeah.
So
it's like
so something's coming through.
It's like NASA 1961.
Can you hear me yet?
Oh, that's better.
There she goes.
That's much better. Whatever happened, do that again.
Yeah, well, I bought a little microphone and it doesn't work apparently.
Oh no!
So
That
I
sounds like a
tried.
song. I bought a little microphone, but it doesn't work.
That was my favorite children's book.
How are you, Roberta?
Well, before we were live, I asked like five different ways. Can you hear me? And everyone just ignored me. I'm like, I don't know whether they're ignoring me because they're busy or, or I'm silent. Anyway, that was funny. Technical stuff not dealt with. Sorry, but hi. My day's been great.
We are sorry that we ignored you at the beginning.
That's all right.
We're deaf idiots.
It was not intentional.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
I was hoping that I could iron this out before we're on wasting live time, but here we are. Anyway,
So
hopefully,
tonight, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one more thing. Is that if for whatever reason you can't hear me and you see my mouth move, say something.
Okay.
No, because
Right.
if we see that happen, I'm going to do like this and I'm going to start talking for you.
Godzilla!
I'm going to talk for you too. Know what I say.
Come ventriloquism night.
Yep.
Awesome.
There's a topic we haven't explored yet.
Ventriloquism?
Yes.
I'm not sure how it relates to comics, but it's
I'm not sure I'm going to
comedian.
write that one down. I usually write them down. I'm not sure I'm going to write that one down. though.
Why doesn't ventriloquism work in comics? There.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of things working in comics, and then I'm not going to dwell here long. I've been trying to do some grading today. You would not believe the amount of plagiarism I am catching in this class.
I would.
It is nuts. And
It's
it's just
AI
like,
problem, right?
it really is.
Plagiarism, or is it AI stuff?
Well, so here's what I suspect, and I don't know how to figure this out. I've sent in all this stuff to my supervisor, but what I suspect is one person posted, and then what they did is they went and copy and pasted that and put that into an AI thing and just said, revise this, right? Because they say the exact same thing, but they say it in different words. And here's what made me catch it. I know they're not going to listen, so but,
tell us their names.
I want to know.
No, I can't do that. So here's what made me catch it, right? So one student wrote, "Oh, and this story was about this thing right here, and my sister was pregnant at the time this real life event happened." Right? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read plagiarizers. Yeah, you know where I'm going, right? And she's like, "And my sister was pregnant at the time that this." I'm like, "Wait,
that's weird."
I just
maybe
read
they're
that.
brother.
The whole knocked up sisters.
That's right.
So that's why I'm like, okay, that's something wrong. And then I went back and read the original one, and I compared it to that, and they literally just took the same content and just revised it a little bit. And really, I don't know. They could have revised it on their own, but I think probably what they did is they just dropped it into a Chat GPT and said, revise this. Then copied and pasted and put it in there because they say the exact same weird things, like my sister, and one of them is like, and they should form a Shazam-like family, and I'm like, okay, no one says that, right?
Wait,
so,
I do. I want to form a Shazam-like family.
so it was just one of these things. I'm like, Yeah, I did this. So I screenshotted them all, sent them to my supervisor, and I said, "This is clearly plagiarism. Can I kick them out of school?" And he goes, "No, you can't do that, but you can report them." I'm like, "They need to be kicked out."
Wow.
So
No, their
And
money
don't you think
just
they-
as good.
that's exactly what it is. It's all about money. Hyper
it's
Potato! So good to see you. We haven't seen you in a while. It's so good to see you here. And of course, he says, like and subscribe, kids. Support the Silverline Party. So
That's right.
good to see you here, Hyper. Hope you have been well. We have missed seeing your name pop up on the occasion. So anyway, that's it for me. I don't want to talk about them anymore. They frustrate the crap out of me, and I'm like, why? Just make up your own words. They're not hard. I've got a whole dictionary full of them. Use words.
They're all right there. All you have to do is put them in the right order.
Yes, that's the thing. So tonight we are talking about art and colors and letters. Oh my. Mike, did you have this? So I can't remember if we said it, but last week was the next couple of weeks are all kind of ideas that Mike says. I'd kind of like to talk about these things, and of course I absolutely welcome those things because it's hard for me to come up with topics every single week. So so that's what we're doing. The next couple of weeks we're talking about some stuff that Mike says I'd kind of like to talk about this. Yeah. So you want to kick us off, Mike? You want to get us started? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, it's like with the origin thing. I just love to see just the basis of things. And we've all got an origin story, as we all talked about last week, and we didn't end up hating Tom because of it. So it must have been a pretty good origin story. But, but then once we get into it, what happens next? I mean, you guys, the writers in the room, you guys conceptualize everything, and then, then we have to go from there. Once the story is established, what do we do after that?
I brought samples, so. Okay.
Actually, the question I've got for you guys off the bat, when you're writing your stories and you're thinking about how you want your artist to interpret things, how are you visualizing it in the script for your artist? Whether you go plot style or whether you go the script style. How visual are you guys thinking? Or are you giving the artist a lot more leeway to kind of help you with the visual?
Well, so I'll cut Roland off now, and I'll.
Go ahead.
So what I do is I try to have an understanding of who my artist is first, and what they've done first. And I try to write.
Possible, but I think that's great.
Right. If you can do that, fine. Yeah. I try to write for what I believe. So I still want to tell the story that's in my head, but I also want to write for the strengths of the artist.
Absolutely.
Because if I don't do that, if we're just doing my story my way, I'm missing out on the input of the other people in the process. And so I'm not like I've worked with artists before who like a lot of room. So I'm not going to have a 9-panel grid in every page. And I'm going to try to figure out a way to move the story forward in a way so that the artist can look at that and go, oh, I got some room to play. I'm going to stretch this out. And because I'm not addicted to the panel layout in my head or the panel layout I call out on the page. And if the artist has a better way to do it, which I'm hoping they do, I want them to bring that out. And I don't mind the artist making changes because I can always just rework it.
Right.
If the story stays the same, how the panels work, it doesn't need to be the way it is in my head.
Right.
And if the art, because like 110% of the time when the artist takes it and runs with it, it comes back better. And I've worked on, I won't name the artist because we'll do it off the air, but when Roland was editing me, we sent a 8-page script of mine off to the artist, and he sent it back, and he drew the wrong character in the panel. And we had a choice of, well, do we send this back to, there's a deadline crunch, and do we send this back to the artist because he got it wrong and, it's not in the script or whatever. And Roland and I thought about this for like 30, 40 seconds or whatever. And I just said, I'll just rewrite the panel.
Yeah.
Give me a few minutes. I'll rewrite the panel and we'll just pretend that character was always supposed to be in the panel. Right. And it worked fine. And so that's You know,
Yeah.
so
I remember that story, and I was like, "Why is that one guy in there?
do
That
not.
doesn't make any sense whatsoever."
Yeah.
But I'm like, "All right, they know what they're doing."
And I worked with another artist who was always putting bits of business in the background.
Yeah.
And so one person could look at that and go, well, that's not in the script. Let's erase all that and take that out. But a person who is an idiot like myself would just go, oh, I bet I could work with that.
Yeah.
I bet I could have some fun, and we could do things with that. And I think that's sort of how I view it. Is I want to write for the artist's strengths if I know who the artist is, and I also want to give the artist room to play around, because one of the things that I understand Jim Shooter is sometimes correct in the way he wants to do things, and the 9-panel grid is blah 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 whatever. But if you're dealing with a certain type of artist, 9-panel grid is probably not the way to go, like 80% of the time. And so I would rather cut them loose. So
yeah. Hyper says, "Who could hate Tom? That's madness."
it's just it's unbelievable to me.
Hey, Carl, I recognize this name. Says, "Good evening. What's up, Carlos? Good to see you here." So I got to be careful what I say about students.
Yeah, take
David Rios says, "Hi all. What is up, David?" And then of course Carlos says hello. Carlos, if you've got questions as we go along, don't hesitate. This is for everybody, but don't hesitate to ask any of them.
Don't listen to the early part of the show where we talked about students.
I know. Whoops.
I had actually I agree with just about everything Tom says. Oddly enough,
what? Oh my God!
I do like to. And of course, it doesn't always happen. But I do like to know who's drawn the story when I can, because I also want to try to tailor the story to the artist's strengths. I'm a big fan of the Marvel method. Excuse me. You guys probably know this, and part of the reason I'm a big fan of that method is because I love the collaborative result. Right. And in my experience, including my time at Malibu, I worked with folks who did the Marvel method, and I worked with writers who did full script. And in my experience, the ones that were done Marvel method almost always looked visually better than the ones that were written full script. Right. And again, almost always. There are always exceptions, and I meant to say that at the top of our show. We're probably gonna, folks listening, we're probably gonna voice some opinions here, and some of us will be, this is my opinion. Please know that there are always exceptions to the rules, right? Despite the fact that I say you got to have a character with a protagonist with a clear visual goal, I realize that there are exceptions to that rule. I can't think of any right off the bat, but I'm sure there are. So
you're wrong if you don't, but if you...
yeah. So I actually, it's funny though that Tom went that way with the answer, because my thinking, your question was going back go back a little further. It's like, where did the stories kind of come from? And I don't always write initially with an artist in mind. Sometimes I do, but I don't always write initially with an artist in mind. It's generally, I've come up with a character that I think is cool, or I come up with a story that I think is cool, right, or some concept. And so usually what I do then is I just start writing, right, and but I don't always write with the story already in mind. And I'll give you an example. So here is, and you're not going to be able to read it all, and that's okay. But here is just a page of the cat mouse story I just started writing, right? And now you can see over here, these became scenes, right? And all I did was then, once I got ready to put the story together, I'm like, okay, this scene needs to go here, this scene needs to go here, and I could rearrange it and then get it in the proper order in which I want it. Right. But when I'm first writing, I just kind of write it all down so that I can get it all on paper. And you can see, I come in here and I'm like, okay, well, here I need to add this stuff here, right? It's just additional notes. By the way, this is for the story. This is for the story the cat and mouse story that we're working on now. So, but what I do though is after, and this is the abbreviated version, when I get a bunch of this stuff down, I am a firm believer that characters have to be, they have to be moving for a reason, right? They can't just, if you've ever read any of those, and I'm sure you have, you read something and you're like, why are these people doing this? This doesn't make any sense to me. And I remember my friend Mr. Tom Mason used to always say about a writer that we worked with. He would say, "Hey, look over there's a story, right?" And this is what would happen in the story. Like, look, there the story goes. Go get it, right? So that's something that always, came to me, is that these characters have to be the ones that are pushing. They got to want something, and it's got to be visual because we're drawing it, right? Yes. And so people say, well, their wants can be, he wants this. Okay, fine, I get that he might want love, but I can't draw love, right? So show me something else. Love, is it a grandmother? Is it a romantic interest? Is it a puppy? What does love represent? It has to be something visual, and the characters have to be going after that thing. Once I figured that out, that's when I can go back and take these cool scenes and revise them and rearrange them. And anybody who's read anything that I've written, I absolutely love cliffhangers, and so I will try to get the a cliffhanger until the last issue, of course.
You were very much a product of the comics you read as a kid.
Very much so.
You specifically, Roland Man, you always like to leave the reader guessing.
Yes.
In a way that, what's going to happen next? And
yes.
that's I think that's great, because if you know that cliffhanger, then you can pace backwards.
Yes.
And figure out. So that's the other thing too, is when I'm writing, I always try to figure out my end.
Yeah.
So that I've got my beginning and I've got my ending, and then I can figure out the Oreo cream filling.
Yes. Well, and if you don't know the ending, here's, and I think you and I talked about this at Malibu sometime. If you don't know the ending, how are you going to set up the foreshadowing in the early,
right?
In the early issues? If I don't know where it's going to end, I can't leave you hints and clues along the way because I don't know myself, right?
And I might not know the ending when I start. I might just have to feel my way around to it. But as I'm feeling my way around the outline or the story or whatever, and I find the ending, then I go back and I revise all the stuff that I created in the first part to make sure that it leads me to the ending that I now want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the other thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I view it as, and I think artists view their work the same way too. It's a lot of penciling and erasing. It's a lot of crossing stuff out. It's a lot of, just trying to find the thing, and make sure it all works. So I'm always writing, rewriting, cutting, pasting, which I could never do if it was a typewriter. I know why writers in the 30s and 40s drank a lot, because it's just. It's so much retyping, and now it's cutting and pasting, and I keep a little file of stuff that I've cut out from stories, but that I still like, and I go, I bet I could use that somewhere down the road. I've got pages and pages of scenes I've cut from other things that are just a scrapbook jumble of plots.
Do you have little manila folders that have? I don't know if I can reach it over here or not. I can't quite reach it. I will put something on a piece of paper, and if I'll tear the paper up. That has my little note that I want, and I'll put that in my manila envelope. I
have Post-it notes. I have 3x5 cards. I walk around when I leave the house. I have like a little 2x2 notebook with me, because the other thing too is when I'm out in public and I see something or I hear something, yes, I could pull out my phone and I could jot it down in my phone or whatever, but that takes a lot of time, and I want to capture it as quickly as possible. So I'll just jot it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I keep a notebook by my bed, and it just, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I got a notebook in the car. I'm set. If you need a piece of paper, I've got it.
I used to wear shirts that had pockets sometimes.
Like a grown-up shirt.
Yeah, like a grown-up shirt, not t-shirts. Yeah, but I don't have very many of those anymore. Carlos says, "It's all good. I have a thick skin." I assure you, Carlos, it was not about you. You might recognize some of it, but it was not about you. And he says it has to be something visual. Absolutely, yeah. If you're going to write visual entertainment, if you're writing a novel, right, it doesn't have to be. But if you're writing visual entertainment, it needs to be something visual.
And I think the same rules apply in television and movies. It's and even children's books. It's got to be. You have to write for the pictures.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. What about you, Mike? How do you go about stories for That Man in the Mask?
Well, I'm with you. I usually start at the end. Most of my stories come with the end, and then I kind of try to work my way there. And because I usually have some kind of a visual that I want to end something on, or I've got a particular topic I want to hit, and then I kind of go back at the beginning. Where can I start this from? Because what's kind of funny is the way I do things now, of course, is the way I started out. I definitely work more visually than I do with words. The words thing doesn't come to the lettering part. I scribble a lot. I actually work very visual with the story. If I've got a scene in my head, I don't write it out. I kind of doodle it.
I'm back.
And
so would you say you are kind of a Marvel method as well, except that you don't actually use script once you've got the artwork done?
Exactly. The story is in my head once I get the framework, but then everything else is if anybody's seen my pencils, it's very loose stuff, and that's kind of how I do with the story too. The story starts out very it's a skeleton, it's a bare bones, and like I said, it usually has an ending first. And then I kind of work my way back. It's like, oh no, I put that here. No, I should put this here. No, this won't work here. It's that kind of thing. It's very. I remember reading a bunch of guys that I had a lot of influence from. When they were writing their own stuff, talking about how sometimes they would draw whole pages and just have just a general flow, and then those would be those in between scenes. And I'm not that loose. I have to have a little bit more structure, but typically every issue I've ever done isn't complete until that last balloon, because I'll keep on noodling it, and I treat it like a sketch from start to finish. It's all like a sketch, and it isn't finished till it's finished. And I can go back in the middle. It's like I'm finishing the issue right now. It's finished, but I'm going back and I could do that a little bit better. I can tighten that up, or and maybe move this page, because I do have those kind of leeway pages that can kind of move a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do work very visually. I despite that, when I get to the lettering and the writing part, I try to get that dialogue to pop a little bit. I am still very visual in the actual creation of the book. There's usually not one word typed until I letter it. Everything else is just everything else is kind of in my head, and then next to my desk on little, don't forget this, because I've done that before. I'm getting to the age I forgot this, so I better write it down so I don't forget it. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure this was in here, and so I make sure the dots connect. Like I said, no matter how the story turns out, I at least want it to read logically, and so that's the fine tuning. It's like a sketch.
Do you find yourself precious about stuff? Because I'm not really precious about my stuff. It's like
no, I'm not. If I don't
I'm always cutting and pasting my dialogue. I'm always rewriting it. I'm always dropping stuff out. I'm always making changes to accommodate what the artist has done. And because when I work in television, we're always rewriting up until the last minute. Like we get a script, we get all the notes from the producers and the directors and all the network people, and it's done, it's locked or whatever. Then we go into the recording studio for the animation stuff. And the stuff that we thought sounded great, when the actor actually says it in the booth, it's like,
it sound good, yeah.
We're not gonna do that. So we'll noodle around with it again, or an actor will stumble over stuff and say, "Look, I'm having a hard time with this long sentence that you wrote. Can you rewrite it?" And we're rewriting it as it's being recorded, and then the following week, the sound engineer will say, this stuff didn't work, or the director said it didn't work, or whatever. Then we have to rewrite last week's episode to accommodate even more new things. So we're always, it's never done until it goes on the air.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how I feel about comics. It's not done until it's too late get any more changes made.
I'm nothing's precious. You know, the story, and if it's entertaining, if it entertains me, I hope it entertains somebody else because I've been reading comics for so long, and I love telling stories. But nothing's precious. I'm with you. If I come up with a scene that just is awesome but doesn't work for the book, it goes in the filing cabinet in the back of my head.
Right.
You know? No matter how cool I think it is, or I have to have that in there, if it doesn't work for it, I'm not about to put it in there.
Because the thing is, I almost never have. I used to talk about. I'll name drop us for a second. I used to talk to Gerber about this, Steve Gerber, and he would always sit at his computer and he would like wait for inspiration. Like he would sit there and he would just be like, this, you know, waiting for the bolt of inspiration. Like he'd absorbed a bunch of stuff and now he's waiting for inspiration to hit him. And he would sit there. He would sit there for a long time. Yeah, smoking and waiting for the inspiration. I was like, I'm not. I'm like a messy kid. I've got clay everywhere. I've got finger paints, and I'm trying to force the inspiration to happen.
Yeah. I would drive somebody crazy. I don't think an editor would love me. I think they would just absolutely be very frustrated with me.
Yeah.
You see, I don't get that at all because all that stuff that you're talking about, that happens when the editor's not around.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I think if you worked in the office and everybody saw how you were working, it might drive them crazy. But if you have the process at home,
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
because
Here it is. So, so Carlos says, I jot my nightmares on the Notepad app on my phone. That's a great way to do it as well. And then he has a question here. It says, I don't mean to derail your conversation, but when writing, how do you keep continuity straight with as many stories as there are out there?
I don't know what that means.
Well, so I don't know exactly what that means either, unless, of course, it referred to Carlos. Maybe you can help clarify.
Does he mean working on so many different books at one time? Is that what he's talking about?
Or does he
mean stories out there you're afraid of copying?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like it means.
Continuity. Well, see, I hear continuity, and I think, okay, well, we have to remember that Spider-Man in this issue did this,
Right?
And so I have to make sure Spider-Man does that.
Well, if you're working on like a series character like Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, there's a book.
Character.
There's a book, and there used to be people in the office who knew that stuff, and you could just ask them, "Hey, what happened in Spider-Man 141?" And now you can just look it up online. And so, but if it's your own stories, I just have a list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's like, I got it. Yeah. Yeah, so it's what Tom said. That guy at Marvel used to be Peter Sanderson.
Right. You could.
He was the guy that were like, hey, we're about to do this. Has this happened before? And he would like, oh well, in this issue, this happened, and he would send you photocopies.
Right. Yeah, and you know, if you're working at DC and you're doing Superman or whatever, they have guys you could ask.
Yeah.
And same with Batman, and same with that, because there's the great thing about comics, the great thing, and especially about the internet, is there's always a bunch of people who know stuff, and you could go to the Reddit subgroup or whatever, and or you could go online and just ask, hey, has Batman ever done this? And not only will you get the answer, people will post clips.
Yeah.
Not only did Batman do this in the comic, he did it on the TV show, he did it in the movie, he did it.
What did we do before the internet?
We struggled.
We got it all wrong.
So our Silverline guy that does that is John Medic.
Right. It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because he's absolutely true, because we were going to do something with Champion, and I asked John, I said, hey, John, did this? He responds back in Cat and Mouse issue, and I know I'm making this part up. In Cat and Mouse issue 2, page 3, panel 1, this happened. I'm like, how did you know all that right off the top? But he knew it. He knew. And of course, I went in there and I got it, and there it was. Right.
Well, at Malibu Comics, we had a guy, Steve Lowry.
Steve Lowry was that way. Yeah. Yeah.
He was the guy. He updated the Ultraverse Bible, and he was like boom, boom, boom on trivia. You would say, I bet this happened in Mantra 3, and he would go, well, actually, that was
No, it wasn't.
And so that's page 17, panel 6. And it's like, okay, so
that answered my question.
Everybody needs it. And well, so Roberta, do you keep coloring samples around too?
Yeah, I keep as much as I can gather from historical if the character's been done before, and if I'm making the colors, I make my own little character sheet, and then I add, basically when I'm coloring, I'm making swatches, and then I make a funny little color guide for myself. And what I'll do is I'll take a snapshot of, I would say, whatever panels I think show off the character pretty well as a reference.
That's cool.
Now, Roberta and I have actually talked about this as of course, as we get, more Silverline comics out there, part of what our concern is going to be is consistency, right? Because we have different hands working with some of the same characters, and so you don't want blue in one issue and purple in the next one and off green in the next. And so Roberta and I have actually talked about creating some kind of
character sheet
palette, character palettes, so that it's all, well, here's the number and you just key it in. That way, when Tommy prints it, it doesn't matter what it looks like on your screen. It's going to print the same way because it's using those numbers.
Using the same color,
Yeah.
That's too technical for me.
Yeah, but you want that, right, for your character.
Oh, yeah, no, you do. Yeah, it's absolutely essential. But my part stops at final draft. That's why I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the other participants down the line who know all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to put this one up here. Where did he go? It says Hyper says, follow Mike W. Belcher 1 on the Twitter. All the cool kids do it. We agree with you, Hyper.
Thank you very much.
And doesn't Mike have a new Man of the Mask thing?
Newsletter,
yeah. Mike has a look. If you don't know how to subscribe to that, ask Mike on the Twitter, and he'll say, "Hey, click here."
Click here. I will let you know how to do it. Trust me, on a tear right now.
And Hyper is right. Did you know that? Did you kids know that you get Silverline comics in your local comic shop? It's true. Ask your local dealer to order you some today. In stores, I haven't heard any reports yet, but certainly in stores by now, you should be able to find K-List #1, and of course Trump's #1 was already out. So these two should be in your comic shops. And
your Trump's 2 is being printed sometime soon.
Yep. Trump's 2 is being printed, and in the catalog today is K-List 2. So you can still order, I think, for the next week maybe, and then the next catalog comes out that will have Trump's #3. So you absolutely can. Carlos, we are not on Amazon yet. We have talked about this over and over again. Long story short is we're going to wait until we have the trades, and then when the trades are ready, we will put those trades on Amazon. But we're not putting the individual issues on Amazon. We talked about it some. Thomas Formonti may be a junior, but he's a senior fellow in the Silverline Institute of Comic Book Awesomeness.
The SICBA.
Pedro. How much money did you pay him to say that, Tommy?
That's right.
$5.
He gave him corned beef and cabbage today.
That's right. Pop says, "Hey, yo, what's up, Pops? Good to see you here." Okay. What's
Don't
that?
y'all want to know how I write my stuff?
Oh yeah,
Tommy.
how do you do? Yeah, how do you do yours?
Oh yeah, the fifth person.
I'm called a pantser. I just do it by. I just make it up as I go for the most part. No, I kind of do what Mike says. I kind of know where I want to go, and I just kind of make it up. It's like, but I do know I do have a little plot.
Now,
so
both
I do write it all out, and then I thumbnail it. And then,
Okay, that was my question for both of you. Do you thumbnail it first?
I do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I'll come up with where I'm trying to go per scene, kind of thing, and then I'll just write a whole bunch of scenes out. You've seen it. It's just real scribbly.
Yeah.
I go. And it could be that I've wrote too much for the issue, and so it'll spread over to the next one, and then I'll then at that point just break it up, and then I'll do little thumbnails. But I kind of know where I'm a pantser. Right? Yeah. You know what it's called, a pantser, where you're just doing it by the scene. Yeah.
Carlos says, "I am a pantser also."
Yep.
Never knock it. It works because that's what I do. I don't thumbnail it out. I do it on full page. I bring up the full page. Now, recently, I've turned to full digital. I was doing pencils on board and scanning it into and then inking on screen. But now for this last book, I decided to go full digital.
Is it better? Is it faster? What are you finding out?
It's about the same. It's about the same. It didn't really speed it up, but it did. It does allow me to try other things out because, again, doing the whole doodling thing, I have an idea what I want for a page as far as how the story progresses. And so I can sit there and I can draw the boxes and think about how I want to progress the story. And by doing it digitally and, like I said, doing full board, it just allows me to kind of weave through it. And because it's when I used to do thumbnails, what was on full board never looked as good as what was on my little tiny thumbnail. It was very frustrating. It's just, you have this look down at your thumbnail. Oh, it's so alive. It's got everything I want on the page. And then when I draw, it's like, well, that looks lifeless. That was the only reason I decided to go digital. I wanted to see what I could do if I could keep that. Yeah.
Well, so
I love
some of the strategies that I used to hear from different artists is kind of the same thing. Is that the thumbnails always look better. So I know that I don't even remember who it was, but I know they would take their thumbnails and they would lightbox them, right? Yeah. And they could blow them up and lightbox them, and then they could kind of trace the thumbnail.
That's kind of what I do. I still do my thumbnails on a sheet because it's still in my sketchbook is where I write my story. I just page by page, then I'll thumbnail in because I probably should do it digitally. I just hadn't got to where I could be as fast as I want to on a sheet of paper.
Right. Yeah.
And then I just I'm not even bad. I don't scan it in. I just use my camera. And I just take a picture of my sketchbook, and then I put it on the, my iPad. The thumbnail. I blow it up. It'll look like crap, but then I knew, it's kind of like Mike was saying, where it, it doesn't quite look the same. But I mean, I'm taking my thumbnail, so I'm not redrawing the thumbnail bigger. I'm actually just taking my thumbnail, and then I'm finishing the artwork, the pencils over it. And my pencils are always scribbly. You should ask Roland.
Yeah.
When I'm at shows and stuff, when I'm doing commissions.
Very scribbly.
I just scribble, and then I see what I want to ink, and then I just ink it.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah.
Norm Brayfogle used to take his blue lines and blow them up, and then he would ink from the blown up blue line, and that way the ink line was as fresh as it could get.
Yep.
He wasn't not that inking is tracing, but he wasn't necessarily tracing over his pencils. He was inking with the same sort of fury that he would do a thumbnail.
Yeah.
And that's how he got all his energy.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do, but digitally instead of on board. Yeah.
So I know you guys all know him, but have you ever? I know Tommy has, but Stephen Butler, his thumbnails are incredible.
I argue with him all the time. Like he'll send me some, and I'm like, "So those are done, right?" And he goes, "No, those are thumbnails." And I'm like,
dude, just ink those.
That's done. Go ahead and color it and be done with it. And he goes, "No," and then he'll send me the finished inks, and I'm like, "You didn't do anything. It's already done."
His thumbnails are incredible. They're tight,
but then you get guys
and they still have
like,
the energy.
I mean, you're probably not as familiar of a name, but Steve Scott, right? Everybody knows probably Steve. Steve Scott draws on the back of the board and then flips it over and then draws through it and then flips it over again and then draws it. Yeah, Steve Scott does it. It's a weird way to watch him do his thumbnail.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when artists work alone. They develop these systems. Without any input from the outside world.
I know. Well,
nobody's there to say that's weird. Stop doing that.
He got it to where you remember you see the people. I mean, I do it every now. I'm sure Mike does. Where you'll turn the board backwards just to look through the light to see if it looks like it's proportional correct.
Yeah.
I think that's what he just does intuitively. That's what.
I saw the first time I ever saw Steven do that. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, it doesn't always look the same if you see it from if you flip it. So I hold it up to the light, and I'm like, that way look, that eye's crooked. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
I'm like, well, dude, it looked right from the other way. So what does it matter?
Well, this one's a little off. I don't
know. I think my art looks nice crooked, so I'm drawing it that way.
Mr. Gutierrez, glad to see you here this evening. He goes, for the writers, do you rely? Oh, I like this question. Do you rely on your artist to plus how the characters act or physically express themselves, or do you include that in your scripts?
Well, that's kind of our job, is to try to exaggerate it a little bit, right? You want it to be a little more animated, unless
Bring
you're just
life.
being real somber scene, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and say, he moves the top 3 fingers of his right hand across the bar or whatever. I don't want to be so detailed that the artist feels like he's being told what to do. I think that's
Yeah.
Man, Mitch Bird it was a she a thing. This is going on what he was saying, where the guy, the writer said that the guy was supposed to flip a coin, and he described each panel of the coin. So Mitch was,
my gosh.
Mitch was like, forget it. And he just threw, it was like 15 panels of flip, 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 flip. Like, why did you draw that? He says, because you told me to draw it.
The thing is that you can tell that came from a writer's brain, because the writer thinks, oh, this is going to be so cool. And it's like, no,
this is not animated. It's not.
Right, it's not a movie. It's like,
but it was so funny. It was like a panel, and then the same hand, just a little different, but the coin moved, and a little different, but the coin moved.
No, for that stuff, you got to go with the artist and let the artist.
I think Mitch even added a page in there to get paid for an extra page, because he wanted. It had to flip it twice. It had to go around one way, like you would see a magician do, where it went one side and back the other. So he added a whole other page, so he had to get paid again for another page.
Because I don't like to give too much detail like that, because it detracts from the relationship between the writer and the artist. And I would rather just say to the artist, well, this is an emotional scene, or this is somber, because you're also providing. The script is also giving hints to the letterer, which is also giving hints to the colorist, and so
Yep.
But
and you do have to remember, when you do pass it on to the colorist, you got to let them know that snow is not fire.
Yeah.
Or when you get the pages, that was funny.
That was really funny.
But you don't say things like, he smiles and we see all 32 teeth or whatever. You don't just.
Or he screams and let me see all the teeth in there.
Right.
And then you're like, would you like to see the script?
One tooth is missing from the back.
Yeah. And I've started trying to do that because it's a page-by-page plot. I've started trying to give it to Roberta. I'm like, here, so you know what I've asked for, and you know what you're looking at.
Right.
I think for me,
sometimes as an inker, I won't know. Yeah, I'm inking stuff, and I'm like,
what is that?
Could be snow, or it could be fire. I don't know. I'm just going to ink it as best as I can. Sometimes you don't know.
Well, I remember too. There was a panel, maybe even Silverline Team Up, the first issue. You're like, hey, what's that on this page? I'm like,
yeah, and I just inked it, and you're like, well, what did you ink? And I'm like, I don't know, but I made it look good. I don't know what it was. I inked it as best I can, and it looks really cool. I couldn't tell you what it is, a smudge of some sort. I don't know what.
Yeah.
What Pete was drawing. I just inked it. I don't know.
He never said anything, so apparently.
No, he was fine.
Yeah.
Except for when he left parts of hands off that he wanted me to draw.
That was funny. So for my answer to the question is a little bit of both. I think for me, sometimes it depends on how important I view it in the story. Right. Is it important that I need to see tears from this character? So, I don't want to just say this character's crying. I'll say, hey, we need to see that there are tears coming from their face.
Yeah, you can't just say this is a sad scene, but you really wanted him to be hysterically crying, and then you got mad because you got somebody going.
You also don't want to say, I need 14 tears.
No, no, absolutely not. No.
So
because
crying
13 is really what you need.
That's a lot of crying.
12 is a good number.
So I think there's a happy medium. There's a balance to it. I think when you're writing something, you have to decide, is this super important to me? And you can't be one of those writers that says everything is important to me. No, it's not. There are certain things that you have to decide as a writer. This is important that I see, and then this happens here. And artists, you can make that look as good as you want to. You do something, make it look beautiful.
Yeah, this is so funny. Y'all keep bringing things up that I've seen before. Because I'm doing inking, for the most part, except for my own stuff. But like stuff that I've seen Stephen Butler on the Spider-Man stuff, and I've seen the scripts because I was there when he was working on them, and I'm reading the script, and I'm like, what about all this whole paragraph? And he goes, I'm not drawing it. I'm not drawing it. I'm like, okay, I don't care. Well, it's not my book.
Because in general, it may not even be needed.
No. You can give me too much stuff to draw on this page. I'm not
You're
drawing
not Dostoevsky. You're not writing War and Peace. You're not writing. You're not Tolstoy. There's a certain point at which it's not a novel.
Spider-Man's slinging from rooftop and he's jumping over this and that and the other. He goes, no, he's slinging here and he's landing there, and that's it. I'm not drawing all the flying through windows and all this kind of stuff.
But when Spider-Man is swinging past the Empire State Building, what is he attached to?
Yeah, the moon. That's a helicopter flew by. He's swinging. He goes, there's a helicopter.
That's right.
He's attached to the little pointy thing right at the very top.
That's right. The radio transmitter.
No, he's got like it's like he's got a bird. He throws up a paper airplane and he's
got one of the Falcons, old Falcons.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I'm glad we solved everything. See y'all next week.
Yep.
Well, that's all for the questions on our chat here. Mike.
Well, what about colors? As far as what the writer has to do with telling the color.
That's the thing too. Is I think the writer has to understand it's not just the artist, but there's a letterer coming on and a colorist, and you have to leave room for the lettering so it doesn't cover up the art, but you also have to leave room for the colorist to establish mood.
Yes.
And like this, you'd have a whole bunch of stuff to the side of my head in my. There's enough room.
That's right. And so you want to be able to let. You want to be able to let the colorist and the letterer do their thing and give them a chance to shine. Because like everything else, all those pieces work together. It's not just like one piece is more important. I would argue that the writing is the least important part, because the art and the lettering and the coloring. I mean, the writing is what keeps people coming back.
Yeah.
But the art and the characters keep people coming back. But the art and the lettering and the coloring, I think, are probably 10% worth more.
For an unknown comic, no one picks it up because, oh, look, this writing looks good.
Right.
Yeah. It's got the proper amount of word balloons on this page.
Right. Oh, look, they spelled this word correctly in here. I'm buying this comic.
Well, and the way
been able to spell.
The way comics are being sold now, so it's the direct market. What do you see? The cover.
Yeah,
that's the first thing you see. So that has to do it, and then you flip through it. You don't read it at the comic book store. You flip through it and you look at the art and you see how well it meshes with the coloring and the lettering, and then you buy it. And then if you read it and like it, then you might go back and get the next issue. And if it's a Kickstarter thing, it's mostly art, coloring, and lettering.
Yep.
And
a word that says, "Here's what this is about."
Right. And so you get like a taste of the writing.
Yep.
But you see the coloring, you see the lettering, you see the art.
I just want to make sure the writer spells my name right when he gives me credit. That's my.
Does it say Flatamani?
Yeah, exactly. Make sure he spells my name right.
Who would do such a thing?
Oh. Somebody that can't spell. That's me.
So what for me in what I try to do for Roberta and for coloring is I try to obviously one of the things I didn't do real well at one point in time was things like time of day, right? Roberta's like, I need to know, is the sky light blue or is it really dark blue?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess you do need to know that. Are there stars in it or are there clouds in it, right?
Well, I'll give you a for instance. You have a series without, like, you're giving me artwork that doesn't have the word balloons. So I don't totally know the story beyond the little outline you have in the script.
Right.
So think about that. So, for instance, there is, we have our champion Miss Fury that I'm working on. Yes. And you have a time of day change in the same room.
Rolling.
You have people talking. Yeah. You have people talking.
Why would I do that?
What page is that?
You have people talking. I don't know. Let me see.
Did I blacken in something?
Last week?
Maybe it was.
I think it is. 14. Yeah, like 13, 14. somewhere in there.
Roland, we've talked about this.
Oh, we talked about this last week.
We talked about this last week, Roland.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to have page changes right in the middle
in the
of
middle
the
of
page.
the page.
Yes.
Yeah, 12 and 13. 12 and 13. And on page 12, the guy's coming in the room. And page 13, he's waking up in bed the next day.
Could
Total
it be a
different time
bad
of day.
inking job?
No. That's part of the
Yeah.
script.
All right.
It's
so
in the
Tommy's off
script.
hook.
Then I didn't mess up then.
No, see,
That's
what
all
I'm
that
saying is it's in the script. Had it not been in the script, it would have been more confusing for me to draw.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it's actually from 12 to 13, right?
Yeah.
So
In the middle of a spread.
and so what I know is that, and I didn't put in the well, no, you said it was in the script. But what I know
said
is
it was in the script, and I'm grateful for it, because had you not put that in there, I might have had a very difficult time getting the mood and the
and
colors
this is one of the
right.
things that I think I kind of caught on a little while ago, because I wouldn't have done that a little bit earlier, but Roberta's like, I need to know that. And so, because in my mind, I know that there's going to be a caption there that says the next one, right?
Yeah, it's not there.
When somebody
Right,
wakes
because
up.
she doesn't get that, right? At this stage.
She's doing it in a different order than what you're providing.
Yes, yeah.
Which is interesting, because when we were at Malibu and everybody was in the same building, you could just get called over and say,
yes,
Roland,
that
is
was
this
easy.
daytime?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Roland, explain this to me. And you would see it on the screen, and you would go, oh, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
now
nice
that you're a provider through digital means by the internet, you've got to give more information.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I try.
Magic or explosion? I don't know.
So not in my outlines, but in my scripts, I try to put in the 5 p.m. or noon or whatever in the description, even if it's not in the caption. And that's for that's for the colorist, and that's for the artist to know what I'm thinking about for time of day.
I have become more aware of that.
Because funny, sometimes the things in my head don't actually get on the page, and then I wonder what happened to them.
Yeah, and that's an issue too, and this is why we all need proofreaders and second readers and editors and stuff like that, is because we know, right, as the writers, like, okay, I know what this is, and sometimes you read it and you read stuff that's not there.
Yeah,
and I know that makes no sense.
It happens a lot.
You can read something and you're like, and then I hand it to Tom, and he's like, well,
a dog run through this.
What about this? And I said that on page 3. And Tom's like, it ain't there. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's on page 3. I know it because I wrote it. And he's like, well, I'm looking at it right here, and it ain't here.
Show it to me. So I had somebody giving me a hard time earlier this week about something that was supposed to be on the page, and they told me where it was, and I went to the page and I screenshotted it, and I said, okay, where is it?
Circle that.
Well, it was in my earlier draft.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I find it funny, and I'm glad things get caught. Like it doesn't annoy me. It's like, how dare you find my mistake? And that's like, no. I'm glad you caught it before I printed it.
Yeah, let's fix it now.
So true story about this book, right? So this book, let me find it here.
Is this Tommy Flatamonte?
Mm-hmm, the Flatamonte?
It wasn't his mistake. I'm trying to remember where it was. It's funny because, a dozen people proofread this thing. A dozen, right? It goes out in the Kickstarter. And just a couple of days later, hey, I think I can't remember. He goes, I think on page 12 it should be he's the king of the trump. He's the king of the spades and not diamonds. And I look at it and I'm like,
get all that
crap,
mixed up.
of course it should be. And he was right. I had the wrong suit in there, and the reader spotted it immediately.
Did you? That's why
even though he had a big spade on his shirt, and then he still called him a heart. Okay, yeah, we know whose fault that was.
That's why I like to put, and I think the key for me anyway is to try to get stuff finished soon enough so that I can set it aside for a day and not look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing I can do is finish something and send it out.
You could look at it 5 or 6 times and still in your mind, you know what it was supposed to read like, and you would still keep inserting something that's not there every time. Yeah,
I like to have 24 hours at least to just let it sit there, and I'll go do something else.
It's better to just leave it and really get it out of your head and then come back to it and look at it fresh. And then you go, oh, I'm a moron. I forgot this whole scene.
I can't remember where it was now. I just remember looking at it and going, you are 100% absolutely right. Not only how did I miss it, but how did the dozen people that proofread this thing?
Did they get a no prize?
No, they didn't get no prize.
All right.
It was fixed though. So, and that's part of the beauty of working with the digital printing now.
It's easy to fix things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those copies went out, right? And I'd have to go back and look, but those copies went out and they have that mistake in them. Every other copy since then has been fixed, right? And so that's
another cool another topic. Does digital printing mess up versions of books? Would that be like version 2 then? That's something else we can talk about at some point.
Yeah.
Something
I don't know.
Digital printing.
It's a mistake edition.
Landscape.
The mistake, because there are comics that have value because there's a mistake in it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
That's right. Like when the Superman credited Bill Finger by mistake, or no, Batman credited Bill Finger by mistake. And the joke would have worked a lot better if I'd get the names right. I need an editor. I need to put that joke aside for a day or two and
think about that one for a little bit.
and then come back to it and then rewrite it. That's what I should have done. But no, I can't do that.
You were pantsing that one. You were just.
I should have learned. I should have workshopped it a little bit, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And it's my bad.
And therefore, this is part of my problem. And I didn't say this earlier. I bit my tongue, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. And this is part of my problem with pantsing is that I think pantsing is great for first drafts, but I don't think pantsing for a completed draft works because, again, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier. Is I think part of the problem with pantsing is you pants it and you put it down, right? Well, then it's finished. But you need to understand. Okay, you need to have that draft that you can work with so that you can say, I need to put this here so that this works, so right, that kind of thing. So I have a problem with, and I know there's a lot of people that are pantsers, right? But I have a problem with that whole method because I'm not convinced that it gives you the strongest story you could get.
Well, I'm not claiming that I do great stories. I just don't know if I would ever get anything done if I had to write script after script after
But
script.
I do think if you're doing that method, it can get you a lot of stuff that you could use.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You're sort of freeform thinking, and you're not really paying attention. You're not worried about structure. You're not worried about
and it's in what you're saying, Tom. It's in what I know is true for me. My stuff's not very deep, so it's not. I'm not able to work in a whole lot of extra story stuff because I am pantsing. But I guess I'm not that kind of writer. So
yeah. Well, I also think, and you and I have talked about this. Tommy knows I'm a Zomboy fan. I think you write more like a Calvin Hobbes thing. You write more for the gag, for the funny.
That's basically I go. Where I want this to go? Let me see how.
Not for a big story I'm going to tell you this story here. It's like no, I'm going to tell you these jokes.
And then I work myself into and this is what y'all are saying. I'm a pantser, and I work myself in the corners. Then I go, shoot, how am I going to get out of that? I'm stuck now. It's like with Zomboy. What power? I make him do all these things because I think that'd be cool to do. And then I'm like, well, what powers does he have? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, because I never wrote that. I never figured that part out. It's just I need him to be able to run real fast. So what do? I draw him running real fast. So does he run real fast?
Like Superman in the 1950s.
That's right. But here's an interesting question. So the stuff that you ink is sort of monsters and superheroes and goopy stuff and demons and that kind of thing. But the stuff you draw for yourself is like funny stuff by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, more cartoony, more kidsy, more
So
more fun when I'm doing my own stuff. Yes.
Right. So which is you?
Oh, dang. Well, you suck. I'm going to say I'm more of the. I don't think either. I think I'm more kidsy, fun stuff, but I like the stuff to look sharp and dynamic. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, but your personality is more closer aligned to crazy zombie boy being like a Calvin and Hobbes thing.
Yes.
Yep, it is.
Yes.
Very
Like,
much.
if you're driving around town, you're not seeing monsters coming out of the manholes. So you're seeing Calvin and Hobbesy type of stuff popping into your head.
I'm seeing cartoony looking monsters coming out of the
Yeah.
with popsicle sticks sticking out of their ears and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, my clock says that we've run our hour. Mike, anything else for this week? Anything we didn't cover?
No, the only question I wanted to ask Tommy about inking.
No.
I had this question I want to ask. When you get something, let's say Peter, from let's say Silverline Team Up champion Miss Fury #2, which will be coming to crowdfunding another month or two.
Mhm.
Yep.
So if you open a page from Peter, how is your approach? What is the first thing you think about? What do I need to do with this page?
If it's a brand new person or if it's somebody that I've been working on for a while.
Let's say brand new, somebody that just got introduced on the
I do something that I was taught from. I was taught from Roland, but I don't know where Roland picked it up. I always like to try to jump in 2 or 3 pages deep and not start with the first couple of pages, because I don't want them to look like crap. So, and not that anything I'm inking is going to look like crap, but I'm trying to get past that rough stage. And so, but what do I ink first when I do stuff? It depends. I typically try to do the background stuff so I can figure out what I want to make the line weights of the main characters that are sticking in your face.
Yeah.
So I try to, and then usually, now if I'm inking live on stream, like when we do these type of things, when I do those, I'll just ink the cool stuff so that way it looks cool on the screen.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I'm doing stuff that when I'm sitting in front of the TV and I'm inking and I'm doing stuff, I try to knock the background out, just the whole page, so that way I can tell what the foreground stuff's going to look like.
Yeah.
So you're skipping around. You're not doing one panel, then second panel, then third panel.
Now that's different from when I was doing. No, that's not even true. When I was doing it on the board, I kind of would ink the backgrounds first and then work the foreground. I guess I learned how to do that with inking all that stuff for Jimmy, because I was just doing the background. So I kind of got to where I was trying to build the scene with the inks, and then I would come back in and do the foreground.
Do you find that helps? Do you find that helps build up your momentum and your muscle for the page?
It makes it so I can see the depth. I always try, and I see this a lot in a bunch of folks that just don't do it very well. I try, if anything, I try to get that depth in the page, and I try to do I always call it a dynamic ink line. I always try to make everything a little. And people are like, how are you able to pull off your ink lines being so thick? And I'm like, well, does it look good? And they're like, yeah, it looks fantastic. And I'm like, because I've figured out how to do it. I don't know how or where I picked it up, but
Tommy and I have talked about that. I'm going to interrupt to hold on to your thought there, Tommy. Tommy and I have talked about this a bunch. One of my personal biggest problems about a lot of comic books today, that are particularly those that are done traditional, is it seems like the artist, particularly anyone who's doing the inking, they're afraid of thick lines anymore.
Yeah,
it's like if you look at it, it looks like they just took a Sharpie and everything is inked with the same line width.
Some stuff still is fine when you're flattening everything's just kind of got that same weight. But as far as I would say, 75% of the superhero-y stuff, we're trying to fake that depth to the thing, and my ink line needs to you know, the penciler can do whatever he wants, but my job is, as an inker and embellisher or whatever, is to try to get that depth. I'm trying to fake that 2D thing and to make it look 3D before the colorer even comes in. And I'm trying to make it easier for the colorer to see, oh, that's supposed to be in the background. I can just monochrome all that stuff because it doesn't matter. You know, and then try to just make the important stuff, you know, the dynamic stuff that's in your face, you know, and it doesn't have to be so. I keep putting my pen in my face, but you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to give, you know, I'm trying to make that thin line background and, you know, the thickness of the line.
How many pages do you think you've worked on over time?
Oh God, Lee, for you guys,
that's got to help too, because I forget the author's name, but you know, there's like the 10,000 hour theory where you have to put in 10,000 hours in order to be even decent at something, and then you've worked on, I would guess, several thousand pages. Probably
the back right when the fall of Malibu in I guess it was 1999, right? You know, when all that was going on, I was probably inking 2.5-3 books a month in some cases. I was inking like one full book for you guys, one full book for Marvel, and then just a couple little fill-ins because you guys always would have me finishing up something real quick because somebody was always running behind. I'm like Barb. I was always able to help, you know, here's 3 pages. Can you knock them out this week plus the stuff that you're doing? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course I can do it. And so I don't know. You can add all those books up. Like we talked about, I think last time or a couple of times. The other day, I thought I was out of all of my original artwork. And then all of a sudden I found 80 some odd pages in my garage. And I'm like looking through all this stuff. And I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? There's like, you know, because I did Nightman 4 through like 9. And then off and on after that, another 8 or 9 issue, it seems like. And then all that Night Watch stuff and a couple of Spider-Man things. And so there for a while.
You had Gravestone in there.
Yeah, all that, you know.
Yeah. All right.
So that's
I'm putting in 5,000.
I was able to do 2 pages a day nicely. They would look nice. They were good looking pages. Well, what did you guys think? They were okay?
Oh,
I was giving you guys?
I can't go back 30 years. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yes. Well, here's the key question. Did you keep getting hired?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was the reason why I didn't continue to try to get more work is I was getting more and more aggravated at fighting for jobs.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's corporate comics.
Yeah, that sure is. I was getting mad, and then I had another opportunity to come to Orlando to do caricaturing to make, you know, just the same amount of money and less amount of time, and then I was able to work on my own stuff a little more. So that's what I did.
There we go.
I want to say too, you know, about coloring is that one of the things, and of course, Tommy and I say a lot. I always refer to Tommy and I this because, you know, he's real local to me, so we do a lot of things together. It's like, and we did a signing here not too long ago.
We go shopping for clothes and jeans. And I like that swimsuit you got the other day.
That's what Tom. That's you can tell that's what crossed Tom's face.
I know he was thinking it. I could see it in his face.
Long walks on the beach, you know, candlelight dinner. They're just hanging out, playing volleyball together.
Yep.
One of the problems that I have, and this is why I feel so blessed that Roberta is with us, and Nikki and some of the other folks here, is that I have such a problem with so many of the modern colors that if you take them back, you know, if you hold them back at a distance and you look at them, they just look like mud. Yeah. You know, it's all muddy and blurred, and they're like, yeah, well, coloring has changed. Like, look, I dare you, grab an old copy of Fantastic Four or Spider-Man and tell me you can't tell what's going on. Yeah. You can, and it's like I think there's got to be a balance somewhere between modern methods and still having a good looking cover, right? And that's why, you know, because I love to, you guys know this, I love to watch Roberta color. Which I can't think of why we didn't put her up today, but I love to watch her color.
Oh, I don't know. I should have been up today. Sorry.
Yeah. But, you know, it's that you can, you know, and I don't know if it's because they just found a cool toy in Photoshop, and it's like, look what I can do, and everything's just so dark and muddy. But yeah,
Well, I think I have an answer for you.
What is the answer then?
The answer is that print is the color separation, and people have to understand that process. You know, and I think, you know, when they were making colors before, and they were, it just having the Photoshop part of it meant that you could choose all of the colors, and people just say, well, this doesn't look dark enough on screen, so I'll just put black in it. And you know, they didn't understand a truer color. They didn't understand a truer color is going to read just as well. It just has to, they have to know color theory well enough to push it. Yeah, just take the black out of it, and a lot of it works out.
I believe in Roberta. I like that answer.
I believe in Roberta too. Yeah.
Well, I thank Malibu Comics for that too, because you know, some of that was trial and error. You go, you know, you see how things are working, and you're like, you know what, we're running dark on some of these night scenes. Why don't we figure out a better way to do, you know, work it out?
Yeah. That's the thing that I remember is you would see it on screen.
Yeah.
And that's different than seeing it on paper. And then you would see it. You would see the film when it came out of the processor, and that would look different.
No, we had a proofer that was not that close, but it was better than nothing.
Right. But it took
nobody's screens were calibrated correctly. Yeah.
Well, they tried.
Yeah.
And then we had, I don't know if the coloring department did this, but editorial did it too, where we would see we'd look at the printed books.
Yeah.
And we would see,
and compare.
We would see how we could, okay, what do we, you know, basically the editorial meetings were just like, okay, what are we doing wrong? How can we fix this thing that isn't readable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you gotta kind of hope that the printer, you know, and I can speak to this, that the printer is trying to be consistent, right?
Yes.
You can't you know, we calibrate at Kablam, or those guys at Kablam, whoever they are. They try to calibrate 2 or 3 times a day. They keep the machines up, you know, current. They keep all of the maintenance people out there, keeping them running, the machines running well. So we're trying to make sure that what book you printed today is the same, going to be close to the same color, you know, as you did.
Yeah.
So
that's sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just, you're right. It's you got to try to, between the monitors not being calibrated right, and so when you get that, it's always we're always telling people when they're printing stuff with Kablam, it's like how many should I get? Should I get 100? Should I get 200? I'm like, don't buy one, just get one, so that way you can see that your colors are all mucked up,
right?
And then you can fix them, so that way.
Well, that's the thing that I liked.
How do I know your guy's not supposed to be purple? Hey, look purple on my screen. Just because you didn't know what your colors were, it's not my fault.
I like being part of all the process. So I liked understanding the coloring. I liked understanding the printing. I liked understanding. Like I was with a client earlier this week, and they wanted to use a certain font for their project, and I kept telling them that's not going to be readable.
No.
They kept saying it's definitely good. No.
3 point.
The script looks so good.
It's
right.
tiny.
Yeah, it's like
see that.
My character speaks in Old English bold. And it's like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. Trust me.
Yeah, we see it all the
time. So he didn't believe me, and so I'm fortunate enough to have a letter on call, and I said, I'll pay you. Do a page in old English lettering for this guy and show him what it is. And
how crappy it's going to turn out.
And he did, and then you present that to the client and go, here.
Read this.
Yeah. And it's not my 30 years of experience in the business. I only need like 5 minutes experience in the business to understand that's not right. And that's these colors aren't going to work for you, and this printing isn't going to work for you. The thing you have in your head, the technology isn't going to do that for you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful that I have all the pieces.
One of the things that you just said sometimes frustrates me a little bit is that, hey, because you said it's not the 30 years experience. The fact is you do have 30 years experience in the industry. And so, when someone's having a conversation with you, when you say, I don't think that's going to work, they need to realize this guy's got 30, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, I get it, but it's like
They know better. They always know
and
better.
it's not like it's something that's okay. Well, let's talk about this. This is kind of debatable. No. That's not going to work. It's like,
Right,
well,
but
I think it's going to work. Okay, well, I've only done this for 30 years.
Well, I mean, there's been some times with the stuff that you've given me rolling, and I go, this page is going to be kind of messed up, and you're like, oh, why? And I'm like, this is why. And he goes, okay, you know better, best. Let me fix it.
Well,
I trust you. Yeah,
that's the thing. If you're going down the assembly line process, if Roberta says, "Oh, these colors aren't going to work," it's like, okay, what can I do?
I trust Roberta. What do you think?
Because we're all trying to put out a good product.
You don't get mad at the people pointing this stuff out. It's just like, okay, do you have some solutions? Because
I might be sad. I might be going, but I really wanted.
But that's what I wanted.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, my poor display lettering isn't going to work.
My comic's 19 pages. It's not 20. And I'm like, well, you've got to come up with a 20th page. And they're going, no, it's only 19. I'm like, well, I'm going to run a blank then. No, it's not blank. There's no 19. Or there's no 20.
The double page. I've got to have the double page spread on page 4 and 5.
Yeah, no, I drew it on
5 and 6. 5 and 6.
5 and 6. I got to have it on 5 and 6. It's like, no, you idiot.
That's it. No, that's where I drew it. I'm like, okay, it's just going to be messed up. I don't care.
Let me show you the pagination guide.
I remember there was somebody at Malibu, good colorist. Won't call them by name. Somebody at Malibu, good colorist. They were always way too dark. And so what I would do is I would go through with them, get everything just right till they were finished. And I would say, okay, now lighten it by 10%.
10%. Right.
Like, Rory, you probably know who it is. But we'd go through the whole process, and they would
I can guess.
where they liked it, right? And I would say, oh, this looks great. Now lighten it by 10%. And they were like, well, I don't think that's going to look good. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. We've got it where you like it. Lighten it by 10%, and it's going to print just fine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it did.
Because the thing about comics is, unless you're doing everything by yourself, there's like 5 or 6 other people who are experts in their little piece of the process.
Yeah.
It's like, then you should. I mean, even though Mike is writing and drawing and coloring everything by himself and lettering everything, he's still got to deal with the printer.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you have to be enough of an artist to understand what the printer needs in order to make your comic look as good as the thing you want it to look.
Yep.
And if the printer tells you this is going to print too dark, then Mike has to trust the printer and say, okay, well, I need to fix
then you go to the printer and say, well, what can I do? Because I'm 24 pages in.
Yeah. And I drew every page.
Yeah, now what?
13 by
it's all black
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, you get that too. It's like, well, I drew the page at this size, and I'm like, well, why?
The size thing.
No,
That's
not going to print.
Comics don't change size by half an inch.
No, yeah, they do. If you were to look at some of our messages. Oh yeah.
You start with a big sheet of paper. You just cut less of it off. That's all.
Yeah. It's funny. I was looking at original art for White Devil this week, and I noticed that it was larger. Tommy, you remember those notepads that Mitch used to get? Those Bristol board pads. I noticed
by 14.
It was a little bit wider, so he's got more empty space on the side. He didn't draw to fill the space, but the pages.
But he didn't trim the board down. He just left it as is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, oh, these pages are wider. And of course, now my first thought was like, well, crap, how am I going to mail this out? People get these in the crowdfunder. I'm going to have to trim them probably.
I'm going to take them somewhere and trim those suckers.
No, we had an artist at Malibu in the early years who thought that they wanted to draw proportionally. But they wanted to choose their own size, but they had done their proportion wheel measurements wrong, and so it was okay. Well, now what?
Yeah, it's like whoops. We're gonna skew that in the computer, and it's gonna be. How come my guy's so skinny looking now?
This little portion of the comic book.
There's only so much we can do. There's the magic of computers aren't quite there yet, where we can expand to fill available space.
You know what size the comic looks like. It's been the same size forever.
You-
Leave it alone.
Forever, yeah.
And if you're a comic book artist, you have to have seen comic book art. You know what size these things are.
Yeah.
Well, you remember
would
that
hope.
you guys, Malibu, you had at some point, we would have the regular, 11 by 17 board, but sometimes you guys had a weird size board. It was like a 12 by 18 paper. Remember y'all had a weird size paper?
Was that the early paper, or was that the second?
It was the earlier stuff. Yeah.
Right. So the supplier issue. we switched suppliers because the guy. Well, again, like everything at Malibu, there was like 20 people involved in every decision, but the paper was spearheaded by Jim Chadwick because he was an artist and he used to draw.
Was pre-cut at 12 by 18, and we're just going to make the boards that size.
He figured out where the blue lines would be for the different size panel borders and for where the lettering would go and all that stuff. And so that was all Chadwick. And the first batch we got, the paper that we were promised was terrible. And
that's
so
right. It bled a lot.
Yeah, it did. And
it was hard to ink on. You couldn't do quill work on it at all. It would just bleed. Yeah.
So then we had to go back and get another batch, and that was great paper. I wish we had. I wish I had stolen a bunch of it.
I remember it would come in because we would ship it all, or y'all would ship it all, or we would because I'd send it back to you. But it would come in the UPS box or the FedEx boxes, and remember those bigger boards were always curled up,
right?
Because they wouldn't fit in the boxes.
Because that was the other thing too. It had to fit. It had to be proportional for comics, but it had to fit in the FedEx box because that way you didn't have to do special packaging.
Right. Yeah, because you just wanted the artists, or y'all same too. You just wanted to be able to run to FedEx 5 minutes before they closed and throw it in a box and send it to you.
Right.
That's what we were all doing.
Yeah, we didn't have to have special packaging because then you got to get special envelopes, you got to get cardboard, you got to get all this other stuff. It's like no. We could. The thing about Scott is how can we save 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, well, you save 5 minutes by doing the boards that you can just throw them in a box and ship it out.
You don't know how many times I'd call that. We ended up being buddies with the FedEx people when we would call. And it's like, I'm running 5 minutes late. Can you keep the door open for an extra 5 minutes?
We had the same thing too. We knew the FedEx guy by name and the UPS guy by name, and he would come by at like 3:30 to pick up, and we're like, dude, we're not even remotely ready.
Yeah, and can you slow down a little bit? Here, you would talk to him. You're like, why don't you come and get a coffee?
Yeah.
We had a deal. He would come by. He said, look, I don't have to be back at the depot until like 5:15 or whatever. I could make you my last stop at 4:45, but then that would be it. And so
don't you get to use the bathroom? Go use the bathroom for a few minutes and come back over here.
Go take a cigarette. Go do whatever.
That's right. You can take a smoke break. I won't tell anybody. Go
work out at the gym next door. Come on back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Grab a donut with the tops.
Fun stuff.
Okay, that was fun.
Good topic, Mike.
Yes, good topic, Mike.
Mike, can I finish answering the question about the inking?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I try to ink the situation, and then I finish the characters out. That's what I do.
Educational. Very nice.
Set the scene. I set the scene, and then I make the characters fit it right.
On Tuesday, that's the line. Show on Tuesday. These guys are going to have game night. The crew plays Jackbox games. How unhinged will they be?
Pretty
Wednesday night. What's that?
Pretty unhinged, I'm guessing.
Pretty unhinged, yeah. They're a wild bunch. It's that West Coast crew over there.
Wait a minute.
Wednesday night, they're going to have guest Mark Darden. Mark Darden is the creator of Guano Guy. He used to be here in Florida, and I used to. Yes, exactly. You would like Guano Guy, Tom. And so he will be with the Wednesday Whammers this coming Wednesday. On next Sunday, we're going to talk about publisher or be published. We're going to talk about the ideas of creators publishing their own work or having someone else publish it. What are some of the pros and cons? Do you
I have strong opinions.
I do too. So yeah, that's what we'll do next week. Anything else, gang?
Yeah, Tommy's got a puppy.
I got them little baby.
Gabby.
My little Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let me get to my sign off screens here. All right. Well, you guys know. Until next week. Wow, fell.
Make
Make mine Silverline.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Hi, my name is Paul Kupperberg. Make mine Silverline.